So happy August, not so much emphasis on the happy part because these animals are stressing me out. But it is August and I just can't believe I have an almost 6-month-old puppy. I was looking back at pictures of her when she was teeny tiny and I don't really associate that with being her because in the moment everything was so stressful. I don't even remember taking half the pictures that I did because it was just a lot. But now she's big, she's so good, and I don't associate her as being that tiny puppy that caused me so much stress and worry. Everything has just worked out really well. So she is almost 6 months old and it's just blowing my mind. Speaking of looking back at pictures and memories, I'm really excited to tell you about today's video sponsor, which is Free Prints. So Free Prints is an app where you can receive free prints of your favourite photos and memories. In the post, all you have to do is pay the delivery. I have recently used Free Prints to print off all of my favourite photos that I have taken of rivers so far, and I'm getting back into making scrapbooks and putting them all into a scrapbook. But this is the exciting part. Free Prints giving you guys 15 free 6x4 photo prints plus free delivery. All you have to do is use my code, which is emiology725 at freeprints.co.uk. This offer, however, is only available to new UK customers only. Thank you so much to Free Prints for sponsoring today's vlog. Do go and make use of that code in the description. Now let's catch you up to speed with the rats because I'm sure a lot of you are wondering why I've not done introductions with them yet and why they're still living separately. Look, proof, we have a kinder running on the wheel. You can't see him but he's doing it. Go boy, go! Good boy! Because you could do with the exercise, bud. Yay! Guarantee though if I open that door, he's going to come running over and not run on the wheels, so take my word for it, he is using it, they do use it. So, obviously I've still, as you can see, got the rat cage split into two. I have got Tiffin and Toast at the top, and then the 4 other boys are down the bottom, Polo, Crumpet, Kinder and Aero, and I hate it. I really didn't think it was going to be like this for this long. I do like to get them straight into intros, and I've not done this before. Usually I have my rats when I get new ones in the fur plus fur rat cage in another room, but I decided this time to just split the cage because they were older. I didn't think it'd be as long before I did intros. Oh, how wrong I was. I've had them, what, over a month now, I think, and it's still like this. So I will explain why that is the case, but I just don't like it like this. As you can see, they're kicking all their bedding out everywhere onto the floor. It's a nightmare, obviously because I don't have a Perspex tray to go into this one because it should only be temporary, but obviously right now it is not really. So this might be an unpopular opinion, I don't like having 4 rats in this bottom cage. I like them having all of the space and all of the room. I just don't like setting up this bottom cage because you can't hang anything. This top part is completely metal, so hanging anything in this is a nightmare. Luckily these boys are the ones that do get out quite frequently, so they're not stuck in here all of the time. I wouldn't like it if they were. That's just my personal preference. I know a lot of people keep a lot more rats in this cage, but personally I just don't like having them in the bottom section for too long when they are used to having the entire thing. So I would love to have them all together as a group. It makes feeding them, cleaning them, free roam so much easier, and safety wise it's easier too. So I wish I could have them all together, but intros is just completely off the cards at the moment. I think it was a couple of days or like a week or so after I picked up these boys. One of my other boys, Aero, who I rescued, that was a rescue from someone who bought him from Pets at Home, he got very, very unwell, so haven't even had the brain space to think about doing intros, and he just was not well enough. So I've been kind of waiting for him to be a bit more stable. Obviously, if a rat is not stable enough to go through intros, then you can't put them through it. So I'd either have to wait, or that would mean that his quality of life wasn't great anyway if he can't make it through those kind of introductions. So I've just been focusing on him. I'll talk more about that in a second. So that's been a thing. And then, just as I thought he was getting stable enough to even consider intros, I then was worried about Tiffin, who lives in this cage. I'll talk about that in the rest of the video, but he had some very strange symptoms, and it was a back and forth, worrying about this one, then worrying about one in here, then back to worrying about this one. It's just been a lot, so not even going to attempt intros. I don't think now that I can do them until Aero is not with us anymore, which I hate even saying that, considering that, because he is still so young, but it's just off the cards at the moment, which it would have been ideal in an ideal world to get these boys in with these boys whilst they were younger and smaller and less of a threat. It's not going to be fun. I just dread intros, doing them when they're essentially adult on adult, but that is just how it's going to have to be because everyone decided to get sick and worry me at the same time, and I just could not do intros. Also, if you are wondering why this cage looks so sad on the bottom, they really needed cleaning out because I thought when I got the other boys, you know what, I'll hold off. They'll all be in intros anyway soon, and then I can clean that because it would need cleaning to make it smell all nice and fresh for intros. Obviously that is not happening, so needed to just desperately clean them. Did that, and then as I'd taken everything out, realised I had no bedding, and they've been so time consuming with them being sick that I've just not had a chance to go to the shop. So literally going to go tomorrow and get them a big bale of bedding because this is tragic. They've got a mixture of shavings and also cardboard bedding because that's all I had. So do excuse this, it's usually like up to here with bedding, but I quickly realised we had none. So having a split cage like this doesn't always work because some rats can sense other rats in the room or above them or below them and be really unsettled and just trying to get to them and being very, very angry. So luckily I've not seen any signs of that with either group, but I would probably house them separately in a separate room if I did see any signs. So these boys have been really good, luckily, but it does make free roam a bit trickier because obviously they've got the cat tree and they can also climb the bars, and you don't want them interacting because they can injure each other and it can also just be really frustrating for them. So I either take them out of the room or I put them in a carrier inside of the cage whilst the other group is free roaming, and then switch just for safety. So I'll show you that and we'll let the boys out. I've got my emotional support water bottle because I've got a lot of talking to do. I wish I was one of those YouTubers that just picked up the camera and just filmed no matter what in the moment, because then I would actually have things to show you. I filmed little clips here and there, but when bad things happen or things start to go wrong, I just completely shut down and just focus on that in the moment, which is a good thing. You want to be doing that, you want to focus on the pets, but I just don't have much to show you and I've got so much to catch up on, so I'm sorry that I don't film things in the moment. Someone commented the other day that it's my responsibility to film my animals when they're struggling so that people can see them struggle. I'm not going to do that. I've filmed clips here and there, but obviously still trying to keep it as sensitive as possible. I'm not going to film them when they're literally like on death's door and I'm trying to drive them to the emergency vets, so that's just not going to happen. I've filmed what I can, but I'm just going to explain everything that's happened with Aero and then Crumpet and then Tiffin over the last like 3 or so weeks. It's been a lot. Again, these months just keep testing me and testing my patience when it comes to the pets, but I've done my best. So, Aero, my rescue rat, he's about a year old. He turned about a year old back in May, I think, and he started displaying symptoms that can either be a respiratory infection or his heart failing, which, given that he is only a year old, I was kind of hoping and banking that it was just going to be a respiratory infection because that I can fix. So we started him on some antibiotics just in case it was that, but we also gave him some heart medication too, just to try and get him through these symptoms. I've got a cat hair up my nose, just to get him through these symptoms and just to see which medication started to work. So a couple of days after I started to give him this medication, I heard this really strange loud noise. I was downstairs at the time. This door is always kept shut, and at first I thought someone's car was making a weird noise, but I came upstairs anyway, and he was at the top part of their cage at the moment, on the rope with his face like pressed out of the bars, trying to suck in as much air as he could, but he wasn't getting enough oxygen, so he was kind of blue around the mouth and his feet were also going blue. So he was making like a clicky gasping noise. That was the noise that I thought someone's car was like backfiring or something. So this was an emergency state, so managed to get my local vets to take him in straight away, rushed him there in the car. They took him straight into the back and put him into an oxygen tank and told me to just go home and just wait, give him a few hours on the oxygen. They also gave him a steroid injection to hopefully just kickstart and get him breathing again whilst he was in the oxygen tank. So I was just sat here twiddling my thumbs, wanting to go back and just be with him and see him. I think it was about 3 hours or so after I dropped him off, they called me and told me to come back and watch what happened when they take him out of the oxygen, just so I could see for myself. So I got taken around the back in the vets. He was in the oxygen tank, he was eating, moving around, like bouncing around, and then they took him out and within like seconds he was back to kind of gasping and making this awful noise. So they had given him this steroid injection. It does take a couple of hours sometimes, I think, to kind of kick in and work. I also had all of his like heart failure medication at this point, so the vet basically said to me I had a couple of options, neither of which were great. So this vet was about to close in the next 2 hours or so, and they basically said I had 2 options. Either I just have him euthanized and put to sleep because he was struggling so much outside of the oxygen, he was getting really stressed and worked up, or I could transfer him to an emergency overnight vet, which at this point I'd already paid about £100, I think, just for like 2 or 3 hours of oxygen. I don't think I could have physically afforded to keep him overnight on oxygen at an emergency vet. It would have been hundreds, thousands, and not even the promise at the end that coming out of that oxygen tank that he would live. So I was kind of in 2 minds. I literally just started crying at this point because I felt trapped between the 2 options. And I just kind of said, let me just take him home just for half an hour before you close, just to see if putting him back in the cage with the others kind of decreases his stress, because Being at the vets is stressful. It's going to make you breathe a bit quicker. It's a stressful new environment, so I just said please let me take him home, put him in with the others, let the steroids kind of work, and if he's still like this in about 20 minutes or half an hour, then I will rush him back and we'll have to then see what we can do from there. So that's what I did. And you know what, it did really help. Obviously some rats in that situation, it's not going to help, they are going to be too far gone. And I was sat in the car park of the vets with him on my lap, just thinking about whether to go back in and just have him put to sleep because he was really in an awful shape. But I got him back, I made it really dark and quiet in here, put him back in with the other boys, and honestly, can't even make this up, I kept checking on him. I was kind of dreading coming up here, and I came in a couple of hours later, heard the wheel going, thought, oh, one of the other boys is using the wheel, that's good, they're using it. It was Aero running on the wheel, literally after he'd been on death's door, couldn't breathe, couldn't move, he was running on the wheel. So the steroids had kicked in, and I think at that point I had made the right choice, so didn't have to rush him back to the vets that day. Booked him another appointment with my actual rat vet to get more heart medication. So yeah, that was stressful, but the steroids kind of gave him a head start, and then I was giving him his heart failure medication, and for the next week or so until his next appointment he was just running around, going up the cat tree, scaring me that he was going to make himself worse, but he was still just trying to do all the things that he enjoyed. He wasn't just sitting there and giving up, he was running on the wheel, eating, doing all the things. You could tell he still was a bit unwell, but he bounced back from that pretty quickly when I honestly thought he wasn't going to. So then his heart medication, we had a couple of days where I ran out and my vet couldn't see us, my rat vet couldn't see us for a couple of days after that. And that is when he started to go downhill again. I couldn't do anything, I can't get heart medication without having it given to me by a vet. So then he started to go downhill. I think that kind of confirmed that it was definitely his heart. So that wasn't great. He went downhill again from that. Then had to have, I think she gave him another steroid injection to kind of just boost him back up. And then he went back on the medication when we got some more. But yeah, that is where we're at. His poor little body is just shutting down and his heart is failing. You can't undo that. There's no like getting better or getting well with that. It's just kind of managing the symptoms. So it sucks. He's only just turned a year old and I can't see him making it to 2 years. Definitely nowhere close to 3 years because of this. So don't buy rats from pets at home. I know other rats can have issues, but Kinder is okay. It is quite a lottery with their bad genetics, but this is what can happen. So it just sucks because he has such a big personality and I want him around for the next year, 2 years, but it's just not going to happen. So it sucks. I've allowed myself to get close to him in a similar way that I did with Crumble because they have exactly the same personalities, and now I'm going to lose him. So yeah, it's a lot to think about. I didn't think I'd have to be dealing with this with him quite so soon, but it's been a lot. So he hasn't been very well, and then Crumpet was also acting a little bit strange, so I did get my vet to look at him as well. But it might be easier to just show you the rats and show you how they're doing and kind of explain it with them with me, so I'll do that now. So Aero's not doing great. He's not really responding to the medication as well as he was. When he first came off the medication for a couple of days after his vet appointment, I honestly thought I was going to lose him, but then once he started it again, he was back to running on the wheel. He was climbing the cat tree. He's always been the first one to want to come out of the cage, but he's literally giving me emotional whiplash because he's going back and forth every day. Some days I think, you know what, I think he's going to be okay today, and then others I'm seriously almost at the point of calling up the vets and just calling it quits because he's not having a great time. So he's like very much teetering on the edge of me not thinking he's got very good quality of life, and I'd say the past couple of days he's really struggling. So I think I'm gonna have to make that decision, and it just sucks so much because I've had rats with heart failure before, but they've always been old rats that have other health issues and they've just wanted to sit in one spot anyway. But he's so active, his brain is still very active, he wants to do things, he wants to be involved, but his body is just shutting down and not letting him, and just watching him get confused and upset about that is just honestly the worst. He's also just got incredibly thin. I have been feeding him separately to the other boys, and at first I was giving him his medication and his food in a carrier, but he was spending most of his day in a carrier, and that's not really any good quality of life. So the other boys have now gone the other way, where they've been eating his share of the food and they're now overweight. So it's just been a lot. I've been trying to give him supplemental food to put some weight on, but he is just rapidly losing weight. So I'm at that point where I don't think it's fair on him to have to suffer like this any longer. The medications were working at first, but they're not really working anymore, and he's just not having a good time. So I wish I had better news about the situation. I wish it had just been a respiratory infection, because that could be fixed and cured. You can't really undo heart failure. So yeah, not the happiest update. I really wish this would have given me more time with him, but I just have that feeling, and just by looking at him, he doesn't look good. He's going downhill pretty rapidly, so I don't think I'm going to have much longer with him. He's still so enthusiastic about eating and running around, but his body's just failing him. So Crumpet here is also on a medication. We have tried him with a few different ones. One of them is literally Viagra. So he had a very weird symptom. You normally just know that something's off. Holding all of the rats, he just felt a bit different to me. He felt very, very solid. He's always been quite a muscly rat anyway, but his chest area was just like, the only way I can describe it is like holding a plastic toy rat. It was really solid and didn't like move when you picked him up. So I had my vet look at him, and she's kind of come to the conclusion that he has something that's quite common in humans when they've had damage from smoking and stuff. So he did have his respiratory infection last September, November, I think. And I think that's done a fair bit of damage to his lungs and his respiratory system. You can hear just how bad Aero is in the background, but he has essentially been diagnosed with something called emphysema. He was getting pretty out of breath. When I was handling him, he was getting very, very worked up, and just sat in the cage, he was very out of breath. So the medication is definitely helping. He's a lot more active. He was kind of just sitting and not really doing very much. Now he's a lot more active, so that is definitely helping. It's good to have at least one animal that something is helping them, and hopefully he'll have a lot more time. Hey bud, I see you. Is that nice? So yeah, his is like less serious, nothing that's gonna be life-threatening, but you can kind of see his chest area is very solid and like very square, which is very odd to feel when you're handling him. So as all of this was going on, I then noticed something really strange about Tiffin, and the fact that he can fit in here, because I usually use this with the mice. He fits in there, which is very strange. So I noticed he wasn't really growing, especially compared to Toast. Toast is huge now. He felt like an 8-week-old rat, and they're 4 months old, so I was getting concerned at this point. He also didn't feel very good. He didn't really have much muscle tone. Holding him in one hand and his brother in the other, you could really feel like a stark difference, so that concerned me. And he was also doing some very, very subtle, strange behaviours that I think anyone else, if I was to take him to a vet that wasn't really familiar with him or rats in general, they would not have noticed this, because it was really subtle and kind of very odd. I checked in his mouth. Why are you biting the plate that's chipped? Let's not eat plates. Thank you. So I checked him over, I checked his mouth and everything, but he was doing some very odd behaviours. He was lip smacking a fair bit. He was taking so long to finish his food. Looked in his mouth, his teeth looked completely fine. So that didn't really answer that. And he was also doing this very like obsessive behaviour where he was pulling on one specific finger, pulling on his finger and then slapping his lips and then pulling on his finger again. So no idea really what that was. I did book him a vet appointment, but he has not done that now in a good couple of days, about 8 days I think. And he's finally putting on weight. You can see the size of him compared to Toast. Toast is, they're kind of getting a bit similar in size, but Toast is definitely a lot bigger and a lot heavier. But Tiffin is now gaining weight, so he feels a lot more muscly and he's not as like lethargic as he was, which is really good. So no idea what went wrong there, what was happening. I did message his breeder and she did say that in the Burmese line, which they are both Burmese rats, she has had some rats that just don't really grow, which I really thought was going to be him, but he does seem to be growing a little bit. So I think he's out of the woods now. He's not shown me any weird or like suspicious symptoms in over a week now. So luckily I think the rat gods are in our favour because I could not deal with anything else tragic happening. I did kind of allow myself to go down that thought pattern of, oh my god, if I lose him, like that is going to be it. I can't handle rats anymore because I've literally just got him. So really did kind of start thinking about the possibility of that when he started to act odd. I think because everyone else was also having their own issues as well, that I was just catastrophizing the idea of him not being here when I've just got him and I've just started to get attached to him. But luckily he seems really good. He's just a tiny boy, aren't you? And you're a big boy. You are so cute. You are so cute. This is literally how much medication they were having between them at one point. I've had to put it all into this because there was just so much. They're not on all of this anymore because some of them were on antibiotics, and that's a fair few of these medications. But between the 3 of them that were all on medication at some point, I've had to organise it and not have it in a drawer because I was using this so much. So gonna give Crumpy his medication. It got to a point with all of them where I was having to do it so much that I've just been having to put it into their, where are you going? Put it into their mouths because they were taking ages in the carrier, not eating it, not finishing the medication, which obviously is not great when it's something that drastically affects their quality of life. So I've had to be kind of cruel to be kind, just giving it to them very quickly in a burrito. So gonna give Crumpet his medication. They don't like it, it's not very fun, but it gets over with, and then they can go back into the cage. Toast is going crazy. It's alright to be you because you're not sick. Where is your medication, mister? Aha, it's this one. Little Mother Teresa man, you look so cute. Choop, there you go. Oh, yummy. Does that taste nice? Chicken flavour. Be free. Good boy. Oh, I know. So that has been my August. I'm sorry if this video has been quite depressing or sad, especially after last month's video was also pretty heavy with losing all of the mice. That's just how life seems to be throwing things at me at the moment. Just having to deal with one thing after the other. So I'm sorry if this hasn't been the happiest video. There has been happy moments in August that you guys will see very, very soon. How many cat hairs are going to be up my nose in this video? There is happy moments that have happened. I finally got some friends for my other mice because that has also been a worry of mine. So finally got some new mice for them. Going to be doing intros pretty much as soon as I turn this camera off, and you'll see them very soon. So there has been good moments, but it has also been a lot, and I won't lie that I have been struggling physically and also mentally, and then they have been like affecting each other, and this has all been affecting that too. So this month has been hard, I won't lie. I used to get, and I still get, a lot of comments asking how I deal with owning rats when it's so sad and there's so much loss. And I think for years and years I used to kind of compartmentalize that part of it, and I was really good at just kind of turning my pet mum brain on and just dealing with it and getting through it and appreciating all of the little moments way more than the stress and the sadness. But I think ever since Crumble passed away, there is a part of me that's maybe not allowed myself to get as close as I was with him, because I knew how much it hurt and how much it's gonna keep hurting as I keep getting more rats. So I think there is a part of me that didn't quite allow myself to get as bonded as I was with him. Aero then came along and completely foiled that plan, because he was like Crumble 2.0, and I really try not to think about losing him too, because it just hurts. It's a lot. I think for years and years I dealt with it really well, but then also being chronically ill myself, there is a part of me that doesn't really deal with things as well as I used to, having to look after myself and give myself medication, and then having at one point 3 rats, also unwell on medication every single day. I don't think I deal with things mentally the same way that I used to. I used to deal with things pretty well, and now I'm getting to that point where I'm not. Being completely honest, and I understand completely when people say this to me as well, there was a point pretty much mid-month where when Tiffin started to act a bit off, I then started to spiral and think about losing him as well when I just got him, and I honestly think that would have broke me. I understand why people, as much as they love rats and they love owning them, get to that point where it's just too much, it's too sad, it's too much heartbreak, and I'm not quite there yet, but I can see how other people get there, and I can see myself also going down that same route at some point in life, maybe in the next few years, maybe not, because it is just absolutely heartbreaking, especially when things go wrong one after the other. It's a lot of stress and it's a lot of sadness, and most of the time that happiness does outweigh the sadness, but sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. It is completely okay to take a break. I would tell myself the same thing, but it's just a lot. So if you do need to take a break from owning rats and rehome them, or just take a break, I get you, I feel you, because it is so much to deal with in a short time span of 2 years. There's so many emotions. But yeah, I'm going to end this video on a happy note by taking you guys along with me to River's swimming lesson. You might be thinking, a swimming lesson for dogs? She is a dog breed that's supposed to be very water orientated. She loves the hose, she does kind of go in her swimming pool, but she has no idea how to swim. So she has been to one swimming lesson before, and I didn't film anything because I was actually in the pool with her. This time I'm going to be on the pool side, having someone that knows how to teach puppies safely how to swim, doing it all for me. So going to try to get you guys some clips of her having her first proper swimming lesson. Hopefully she likes it, fingers crossed, but I'll put those clips in anyway. But this is the end of this video. Thank you so much to my channel members, especially during this month where you've just given me words of support in our group chat. It has meant so much to me, so thank you so much to every single channel member for supporting the channel. I'll put the names, and the names will be of the rats here on screen. Thank you so much. And of course to everyone else, don't forget to subscribe just in case you're not already, and I'll see you in my next video, which will be miles happier and more positive than this one. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
Good girl. There you go. Good girl. Yeah, I know. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. You're doing so good.